I tried this live a little bit ago, but it didn't go very well. We were having a thunderstorm and it kind of knocked out our internet or made it pretty sketchy. So the live was really blurry, but this is content that I really like. And so I'm re-recording. And the topic I want to talk about is drama, how to define your drama. And this is really important in terms of us being in charge of the experience we have in our life, because a lot of the way we feel comes from the way we tell the story of what is happening or has happened to us. And many of us say, I don't like drama. I don't want drama in my life. I'm not a dramatic person. It's kind of an insult to be a drama queen. However, many of us tend to include the drama on default, if not the story we tell outward, at least the story we tell ourselves. And so when I notice that I am speaking dramatically, when I'm telling a dramatic story about myself, what I try to do is just kindly, gently remind myself that my story always seems true, that when I want to defend and I want to say, no, this stuff really is happening. I really have all this terrible stuff happening in my life. That's the way I always feel. I always believe my story. And that what I want to do is just take a quick look and check for some of the key drama pieces that tend to show up. And so what I want to do today is run through some of the things that I look for when I'm checking my story for drama. So I made kind of a list of all of them. And the first one is blaming your story. And so this would be one where you're telling a story about something and you're like, and then he said this. And so, I mean, I just had no choice. He made me feel this way. And so I had to just let him have it. And so I just unleashed everything on him. And it's, it's not uncommon to hear a story. And maybe as even a listener to the story, you hear that, you're like, wow, that was a really offensive thing that person said to you. But what you're doing is you're dismissing, you're saying, he made me feel this way. And that's one thing to watch out for, because now you're giving someone else the credit for how you feel, when we know that the only thing in charge of how I feel, the only thing that can control how I feel is what I think. End of story. The other thing is that I had no choice but to, when they're unleash on this person. Whenever you're removing your choice, it makes you feel sort of unempowered and like the victim. And you'll find that drama tends to do that first and foremost, make you feel like a victim. The second one is when you're telling a story and you start to notice that the person that you're telling the story to is not responding the way that you want. And so you keep on, trying to cause an emotional response in the listener of the story. Holy cow, this would come up a lot when I was teaching students to do this, because they're looking for a response from me, and if I was busy doing something else, they're not happy with the way I'm paying attention to their story. So the story just keeps getting more and more elaborate and detailed and dramatic until I'm like, wow, what? And so an example to watch out for that is if you just notice that you're pausing a lot, if you're telling somebody yeah, I really worked out hard this morning, and you're kind of looking for them to be like, wow. But they don't, and you're like, yeah, it was all these different workouts, and there was no rest. There was literally no rest. We never rested, not once. And it was a 6-hour workout. We worked out for 6 hours with no rest at max, as hard as you could go. I mean, it's harder than I've ever gone in my life, and there was no rest at all. And that's one of my favorite ones. Whenever the at all shows up, that's when you're really not getting. You're just the person is just not getting you the response that you're looking for, and so you throw your little at all at the end of it. So now when I hear that, it always kind of makes me smile. Those stories can just go on and on. Shoot, I've had students tell me about training rattlesnakes to defend them against predators, all sorts of stuff. But I could definitely see a story like that, unraveling into someone calling the police because of the abuse that was going on from the instructor of this class that was just over the line. You can't have someone work for 12 consecutive hours with no breaks at their maximum aerobic intake. And so it's just something to, watch out for, is if you find yourself really trying to control the emotional response of the person you're talking to, you're probably dipping into some drama in that story. The other one is when you find yourself trying to control the emotional response of another character in the story. So when you're explaining, some events, why you did something or why it unfolded the way it did. Like, yeah, but I just couldn't tell him the truth because then he would be embarrassed. And I just couldn't do that to him. And you can see the way you're making an obligation to make someone not feel embarrassment. And again, the only thing that can make someone feel or not feel someone is their thoughts. I don't have the power to make you or anyone else feel or not feel something. And so when I give like, no, I had to control your feelings and therefore I had no choice but to do what I did. It's again, just sort of taking that choice, not acknowledging the choices that were available in that specific situation. Let's see, adjectives I have on here. If you hear someone, and it's so funny because it often follows someone saying like, no, I don't like drama. So I had to leave that job because it was a toxic environment. And I just refused to work in a toxic environment. A toxic, like poisonous, like is that what we're going with? At the same time that like, no, I don't want drama, but I'm introducing toxic into the situation that we're in. There aren't, toxic work environments unless you're working with asbestos or something like that. There aren't toxic people, again, unless they have some sort of a disease that's contagious that has toxins that can come into you. So just to kind of, just get a little real about the words that we're choosing, the adjectives that we're throwing in there. Of course, generalizations are a big one that pops on here. A lot of times you hear someone like fortune telling or predicting the future. They know what's going to happen next because when this happens, it always goes down this road. I mean, we know that's going to cause trouble down the road. Like, well, do we know that? Or is that me adding drama into the equation? Exaggerations, of course, are always going to come up. My favorite, there's been a lot of exaggeration in these examples so far. One of my favorites is when literally shows up in one of these. And it's very common in my experience among volleyball players, just because those are the athletes I've hung out with the most, that you end up getting a sore shoulder. And so after making a few hitting errors, oh yeah. And probably your shoulder really does have pain. Like that's the truth. There is pain in my shoulder. But instead what's said is, oh my gosh, my shoulder is literally going to fall off. Literally going to fall off? and just so anytime that word literally, when you see that in there, that could be a red light that there's some drama being inserted that doesn't need to be there. Let's see, I've got on here also making it personal. That's a really good one. This would be like you're telling someone a story about someone else at a restaurant who is not telling someone about stuff in their face, and they're like, she just let him finish the entire meal with an entire pickle just stuck to his cheek. Who does that? And that's where the dramatic question comes in. Who does that? What kind of a person besides her could possibly make this choice? All of a sudden, it's not just a circumstance or an action or something you observed. It defines her. It is now personal. Who does that? Let's see, I've got two more on here. One is avoiding responsibility. This is one of my favorites to watch out for myself, because I tend to easily justify things. And so if I imagine a situation where Whitney and I were disconnected and it came time to go somewhere, and she said, just go by yourself, just go out there. And I'm telling the story. So she told me, just go alone. And so, yeah, I went. What else am I going to do? And so I go out, have a good time. I come back, and she's all pouty, sitting in the corner. And so I just turn on a movie, start watching a movie. Because what am I going to do? Ask her what's wrong? Yeah. That would be a really great thing to ask her. Hey, babe, what's going on? What's wrong? But I say it as if that is, I have no options. I have no choices. There's nothing I can do in the situation besides the things that I did. Of course I have to go out. What else am I going to do? And so, again, just another example of little red flags to look for when you're trying to check on your story and see if you're adding drama that doesn't need to be there. The last one I have on here is just sort of a silly one to watch out for, but that's like body language, specifically the big exhale or the eye roll. But, if someone says something to you, hey, this happened this way or that, and you're like, or they ask you a question, hey, how's your day going? Definitely that's some trauma that's popping in. Whitney always laughs because the dog does that. Lily will come, or not. Whitney and I are always laughing because the dog does that. Duke will come up and put his head right on Whitney's lap and just... And I'm like, oh my gosh, Duke, why are you so dramatic? All you have to do is eat and sleep. So that's my list. Those are the things to watch for. And so what I wanted to do to kind of tie it all together is tell you a story. And this is a true story that I wrote 2 ways. I've got a paper right over here. Right up here on top, I've got the no drama version. And then down here, all of this red is added drama that I added to this story. So I'm going to read you a no drama version and then a drama version. Same story, true story, real story, happened in the last 10 days. 5 years ago, I bought a computer that I use for both work and for managing my house stuff. It was taking a long time for programs to open, and so I tried some solutions to see if I could get it back to the speed that I prefer, but it was still taking longer than I wanted. I decided that the inconvenience of spending money for a new computer was less than the inconvenience of the time I was spending waiting for programs to open, so I went ahead and bought a new computer. Instead of a less expensive computer, I chose to spend $800 on a computer that I believe will last longer. Specifically, they said it had a solid state drive, which apparently is supposed to last longer than the kind I had before, which tends to break down after 5 years. So I spent the extra money to get the solid state drive. And I also liked the way this one computer looked. There were 2 of them that were good. I liked the way one computer looked, and so I spent an extra $60 to get the one where I preferred the look. So I spent $60 more than I thought was functionally required for this computer. There's my no drama story. Now with drama. I just bought a brand new computer that I depend on daily for work and just to live my daily life. So of course, it starts running ridiculously slow and gets to the point that I'm wasting 3/4 of my day just watching that little wheel spin around waiting for programs to open. I spent the last 3 months wasting hours on every possible solution I could find to see if I could get it back to an acceptable speed, so I could at least be somewhat productive during the day. But instead, what I got to do was drink 30 cups of coffee every day, just killing time while it was limping along, because opening a Word document was literally like finding the 10 millionth digit of pi. So now I have to spend a small fortune just to keep our business running. And instead of a crappy computer, I had to spend an arm and a leg on a computer that can actually handle my workload. You would not believe the price they are charging for computers that are not hideous looking. Seriously, some of these computers would make me feel like I was working in a dungeon. I can't get one of those, you know? Obviously a lot more drama. It's interesting to observe that the second story, if the purpose is entertainment or even sometimes like connection, that people are trying to kind of vent and connect together, the second one could be a very serving story. It's actually kind of a better story, more entertaining to tell you, that's for sure, more entertaining to read. But it's not going to offer me the experience of life that I'm looking for, because it makes me feel like a victim to this computer situation, which is kind of funny because what happened was I got a brand new computer, which is sweet, and I love it. But I could really tell a story like I'm a victim and take all my choices out of it and just say it had to be this way because of all of these things that you know were out of my control this whole time. So I don't want to say the drama is bad. It's important to be aware of it. If you don't like the way you're experiencing your life, it's good to check on your story, check for drama, and see what's there. I find that I opt for drama sometimes. I like to be comforted by Whitney. When I've done stuff that I think is hard, sometimes I like to tell her how hard it was so that she will say, wow, Jake, you're strong, or wow, that's impressive that you did that, or oh, just come here. I'm sorry, love, that happened to you. You know, and I get a little bit of this, and I get to indulge in a little bit of comfort is really what happens. But I like that to be in the 10 to 20% range of the way I live my life. The other 80 to 90%, what I would prefer to feel about the story I tell myself is empowered and encouraged and confident and, oh my gosh, peace. I love to feel peace. I love to just feel calm, that everything's going to be okay, instead of this like everything's happening to me, drama. And so if I'm honest, like there's seasons of life where I let my normal 10 to 20% kind of grow to be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of my time is spent trying to, explain how hard things are. If I go through my list of drama, it's spent including those things that are on that list. And it's in those times where if I look back, I'm like, wow, my life was really chaotic. Very dramatic word. I had a lot of drama in my life. And you'll come across a lot of people who genuinely believe, I just have a more dramatic life than other people. I don't like drama. Drama is drawn to me. But that's the thing. We all believe our story. Everyone believes their story. And since I've had sort of the same experience, or the same story, the same circumstances, and sometimes I felt it was dramatic, and sometimes I felt it wasn't, it leads me to believe that maybe it's not my life that's either dramatic or not dramatic. Maybe it's the story I'm telling myself about my life. And if I take the time to go back and look for places that I'm giving away my power, then I can see, at least cards on the table, what's really responsible for my dramatic life. That's it. Thanks for watching.